Everybody, I want to call to order the December 2nd, 2019 Board of Aldermen regular meeting. Would everyone please join with me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please. Here. 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 Here.
Here.
Here.
Here.
Here. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval or amendment of the agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Any objection to approving it by acclamation? Seeing none, it will be so approved. Next on the agenda, announcements, appointments, proclamations, and recognitions. We have one, and that's for Greg Reinders. Greg, if you would, come on down here. I guess we do it like this, right?
Okay, yes.
Okay. Presented to Greg Reinders in recognition and appreciation for many years of service to the City of Brentwood, City Treasurer from 1994 to 2019, Brentwood Bound Community Task Force from 2017 to 2019, Alderman, Tax Increment Financing, TIF Commission, Emergency Management Coordinator, and many other chores. I just want to say on behalf of the city that over the years I've gotten to know the Reinders. Kim teaches at Immaculata, and she taught both my children in 4th grade, and she did not make either of them repeat 4th grade, so she holds a very special place in my heart. But I've gotten to know Greg through different ways, through the service to the city. And as any of you know who serving on this board, if you served on any other committees outside of this, you appreciate how much time and effort and sacrifice on behalf of part of the person who's serving on the committee as well as on the family members that it takes to do that. And I've known Greg for a number of years, and I know the reason that he's done this was not to benefit himself or his business. It truly was an act of love for the city of Brentwood. And you are the complete embodiment of a civic-minded person. So on behalf of the city of Brentwood, thank you for your years of service. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It's the hardest part of leaving Brentwood after 30 years is going cold turkey, serving the city, the board. Very much appreciate all of your support and being able to work with you all, Miss Bola and Lisa and Karen and the rest of the folks, police and fire chiefs. I've seen many come and go, and with each new person, be it the board or committee member, they love the city even deeper than the one before. So hopefully one day I'll be back. We're just trying condo life at 9101 Eager. So if the city could annex that part of Richmond Heights, I'll be back here. But thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Greg. Next on the agenda, public hearing and adoption of the budget fiscal year commencing January 1st, 2020 and concluding December 31st, 2020. And with that, I will open up the public hearing. If anyone in the public cared to address this issue, now is the time to do so for the budget only. If you want to talk about the budget, come on down. Just the budget, yeah. Seeing none, we will close public hearing. Next item on the agenda is item 6, citizens' comment. If anyone in the public care to address the board, now is the time to come on down. You will be given up to 3 minutes.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Harry Meyer from 9401 Parkside, and the reason I'm here this evening is to voice of support for the installation of a light on Parkside Drive. I've had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Plufka, Ms. Tice, and so I think you have some of the papers I brought with me today. Katie Warcall, who lives at 9414 Parkside Drive, she is very much in favor of the light. She's not able to be here this evening, but she was hopeful to have a light installed in her yard on her property. And I'd like to read the letter very briefly. It says, to the Brentwood Aldermen, I live at 9414 Parkside Drive and am in favor of installing a street light at the corner of my property. I appreciate the consideration of the city of Brentwood in keeping its residents safe. Alderman Nancy Parker Tice mentioned that a shade could be installed along the south side of the light so as not to shine as much into my house or the King's residence. I would appreciate if that could be installed on the light. Evidently, that's very easy to do. I believe the addition of street lights will enhance the safety of our city, our pedestrians and drivers, and again, I'm in favor of a street light being installed on my property. And then in support of her letter, we have a petition signed by a number of members or neighbors on Parkside Drive. 1, 2, 3, 9 or 10 signatures. Another neighbor who wasn't able to attend tonight either, I would point out Amy, who's the last signature. It was her house where the perpetrator, is that the right word? Police, I think they call them perpetrators. Perpetrator was caught inside the window well of her house. Her dog was barking. The police had their guns out defending us, and so I think she was going to sign this in capital letters. But she wasn't able to be here this evening. And the last isn't really a letter, but the Luths, who also live directly across the street from where the light would be placed, are out of town. They weren't able to sign this, but they did send a letter of support. So anything that the Board of Aldermen can do to support safety for at least Parkside, that would be wonderful. And I also have heard that Mr. Plufka, Mr. Dimmitt started this process some years ago. So I want to particularly thank you two for having the foresight to try to help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Next on the agenda, item 7, Mayor and Alderman reports. I have one quick one. I did call a workshop, and the reason for that was after the last Board of Aldermen meeting, I kind of sensed a lack of a general consensus concerning the park, or the whatever we want to call it, in the Brentwood Bound area. And so I thought that, and I met with Bola and Craig about this, and I felt like it would be best if this board could provide some direction to staff as to what this board would support one way or the other. We don't want to be putting a lot of time and effort into putting together this park and then find out that the board doesn't want to do that. So that's the purpose of this workshop. It was also in response to, I think, an email that I received where one plus maybe 3 other aldermen were kind of wanting to discuss the look of the Brentwood Bound area once it's all completed. So we'll try and address that as well. But first and foremost, it's the issue of the park. So if you can make it to that workshop, that would be terrific, and that's the whole reason for it.
Date and time?
We have that set for 12/11, December 11th at hopefully 7 o'clock. It was notes for 6, but we're trying to do it, I think, for 7 for Alderwoman Tice, if we can do it then.
At the rec center?
Be at the rec center. Next up, Alderman Kramer's not with us. Alderman Leahy.
Oh, we have an announcement, Your Honor. The Ward 3 meeting was scheduled for the 17th of December, but due to lots of social engagements, both Alderman Lockmuller and I are not available on the 17th, and we have chosen not to hold a Ward 3 meeting this month.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Sure. Alderman Lockmuller.
The Public Works Committee will meet here next Thursday, December 12th at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderwoman O'Neill.
As the library liaison, I want to remind people that Friday night is short story something, where we meet to have dinner and then supposedly discuss the short stories we have read in the last month, and everyone's welcome.
Thank you. Alderman Plufka.
Steve, could you remind me, when is Public Works?
The 12th.
Okay. So this is an effort to make sure Steve's got something to do every night.
We're getting there.
Public Safety is meeting tonight at 5:30. I believe it's here, correct? Is it here? No. It's in the rec center. I'm sorry, it's in the rec center, and it's at 5:30. And and our agenda item, really the only agenda item, is to take up the updated CPSM report.
So tomorrow night, 5:30, Public Safety Committee meeting at the Rec Center.
Yep.
Okay. Alderwoman Sims.
Our regular Ways and Means meeting is scheduled for this coming Thursday at 6 p.m. at the Rec Center. Come one, come all.
Thank you. Alderwoman Tice.
No report.
And Alderman Weggie.
Just one thing, I received some positive feedback. One of the contractors that does a lot of work, I was talking to him, he did my kitchen back in the day, and Lisa, so he was saying Brentwood is the only town that the permitting process is totally online, and he was just really positive that our process was, the best. So appreciate that, very positive feedback. That's it.
Okay, thank you. And I forgot two things. One is next Monday at 5 is the Brentwood Holiday Party at the Rec Center, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. All are invited. There will be food and fellowship, great time. And then finally, tomorrow night, although it doesn't involve the city directly, the school board is holding a forum. Actually, not tomorrow, I think it's the 4th. Is it the 4th? Wednesday at 6 o'clock up here to discuss and the issue about the two grade schools, the future of them, and to get some input from the public. So I would encourage everyone to attend to get some information about what is being proposed. Next on the agenda, item 8, City Administrator's Report, Brentwood Bound Update. Craig?
How's it going? Good evening, Craig Schiller with Navigate Building Solutions. I'll be providing the Brentwood Bound update. So the first note is something exciting. Brentwood Bound has the first groundbreaking ceremony on December 18th at noon. It'll be held at the old Serco building, which is 8302 Manchester. So we encourage all of you to attend, along with any citizens or anyone from the public. It'll be the first groundbreaking ceremony of Brentwood Bound, so it'll be a really important moment for this great project. In regards to the to the Brentwood Bound spending, the cost came out of soft costs. Since the last Board of Aldermen meeting, there was $61,469.10 spent. That was spent on property acquisition legal fees, property surveys, relocation consultant fees, traffic studies, and a demolition bid advertisement. In addition, there were significant property acquisitions money spent as well. Total spent since the last Board of Aldermen meeting was $6,768,500. That was spent on 3029 Brent Avenue, 8130 and 8228 Brentwood Industrial Drive, and 2717 Breckenridge Industrial Court.
Thank you. Any questions for Craig? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda, item 8B, I think it's a typo, but I didn't catch that. Additional street light site location, probably be alternative street light site location. And this is, who's handling this? Is Dan handling this?
Dan, yes. So this is a follow-up to the comment made during public comment by Mr. Martin.
And while Dan's walking up here, just a quick little background. The reason I said it's not an additional street light is because I believe, and Dan will correct me, or Karen will correct me, is that this light itself was factored into the budget. And
Correct.
so it's, the funds are approved already. It's just the issue of the actual location.
That is correct. We had Reinhold Electric actually bid on 20 of them, and this was one of those 20. So when we decided to bypass where it was originally proposed, like 9414, 9400, that property line, they just put the conduit through. There's no splice there. So I actually do have the cost they sent in an email. So basically you have three options. You can either put it on the same side, which is the south side of Parkside, and it would be by 9414, closest to that property. Your other option would be to bore across the street and put in two splice boxes, one on the south side, one on the north side, and that would place it either at 9401, 9407, or right on the property line of those two. So I put a little graphic in there to kind of show you the different addresses. So, those are two options. Your third option was a solar light, but if you go with solar, it's not going to look the same. It'd still provide light. The cost now, it's option one, which would be the south side, which is the same size as where the existing conduit is, $2,400. Option two, to come across, bore a little over 35 feet of conduit, two splice boxes, is $5,000. And then I looked at what our solar lights are costing with shipping and everything, $3,025. That doesn't include a base or anything, but we do all that in-house. Just the raw cost of the light with the battery and the J-bolts that go with it to mount it in the base. So, you kind of see the range there.
Is the staff making a recommendation between any of those three options?
My personal recommendation would be option one. It's the same side. It would look consistent with the other two lights that are in that island, McKnight Park. If you jump across the street, that's a possibility, but it's going to cost you double.
And it's the least expensive
Right.
option one. Okay,
Yes.
Alderman Plufka, I think you
I
had.
just had a real quick question. So the $2,400 with regard to option one represents the additional cost of essentially moving that light from its original location.
Right, because they already buried it, backfilled. Now they have to remobilize, dig it up, cut it, pull it up to the surface, put a culvert pipe, which is the base, and then Ameren can come in and put that light within the base, and then they pull the wiring, they being Ameren.
And so considering that that's a change to what was already been approved and it exceeds $2,000, you're going to require a motion to.
I think, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'd like to make a motion to approve option one to relocate the light to 9414, consistent with the map that's connected with this, the memorandum that's connected with this item in the agenda.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Plufka, seconded by Alderwoman Tice. Any discussion? Yes, Alderman Leahy.
Does this 2,400 also include putting the shade on it to eliminate Mr. King's concern?
The shade is something Ameren can do, and I've had them add shades before. It's like a $100 item, $150.
Can
It's
we include the
inexpensive.
shade into that so that we accommodate all
That's
neighbors?
fine.
I'll agree to amend the motion.
Thank you.
And I'll agree to second the amended motion.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you. And any idea timeline now, what we're talking about? Since
I'm going to go ahead and email him, because what I want him to do is he'll have to call utility locates, even though there wasn't really anything in, legally he has to do that. So he'll have to do that first, and then assuming whatever his workload is, he'll just work it in. It should be fairly straightforward. Ameren said they'd save that one for last so we can get our work done in advance of them, and they should be out this week putting in the other lights.
Okay.
So we'll just roll it in. I'll give you an update in Public Works.
Alderman Leahy.
You received an email over the weekend from one of the residents in Ward 3 where the proposed light is going. The other neighbor's driveway runs right into that line, and they sent a picture showing that even the hole markers to block off, since they dug the hole, are getting hit by cars. Is anything happening with that location?
We'll just have to meet with Ameren. I did see the email, but I didn't totally follow it without going out in the field. So we'll look at, because like I said, Ameren, they'll place the lights wherever those culvert pipes are, but I don't know if that culvert pipe is what he's talking about or just the markers where they marked it
The
out,
concern is where the pole is. It is very close to the street.
which is where you actually want it, but.
And when the
yeah.
neighbor across the street backs out their driveway, the end of their car will hit that post. And thus, she's already hit the barricade that's up there because they put the hole in. Can we shift it a little bit so that we avoid that problem right off the bat?
Yeah, again, I'd have to look and talk to
If
Ameren. I
you
mean, we can try it.
decide to
Yeah.
look at it. If we could avoid a problem before we put it in the ground, that would be better.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Next on the agenda, item 8C, 2020 municipal election filing announcement.
There are three really important days that I just wanted to remind the public. December 17th is the opening of candidate filing at 8 a.m. for the April 7th general municipal election. And we will accept that at the Brentwood Community Center at 2505 South Brentwood Boulevard. Also, January 21st of 2020 is the closing of candidate filings at 5 p.m. Also at the Brentwood Community Center. And of course, there's the April 7th election, election day, municipal election day. Polls open at 6 a.m. through 7 p.m. that day.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the consent agenda. We have 5 items. Item A is the standing committee reports. Item B is the warrant list for 2019 expenditures from the 2018 series certificates of participation in the amount of $6,829,696.10. The warrant list for the 2019 operating funds in the amount of $262,712.04. Work order number 62, proposed intersection concept for crossing Brentwood Boulevard at Russell Avenue / proposed Brazil Avenue and Union Pacific Railroad crossing, and minutes of November 4th, 2019 meeting. Board would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, got a motion by Alderwoman O'Neill, seconded by Alderwoman Sims. Any discussion? Alderman Leahy.
Thank you. On work order 62, am I understanding that what we're trying to do here is to get St. Louis County to work with us to put a a cross intersection there and put potentially traffic lights in this intersection?
Is Craig, you want to take that?
Sure. So CBB is the city's traffic
study
attorney. So, engineer. So they're looking at, with the Northwest Park and that new Brazil entrance that comes off Brentwood Boulevard into the parking lot, the city would like them to study what that will do to traffic at that area when you combine that with the Union Pacific and MoDOT potential improvements, along with the bi-state bus routing changes that will be necessary as part of the Brentwood Bound. So there's a lot of things that are changing in an area, and because CBB does all the analysis of these impacts with the street, we thought it'd be prudent to hire them to look at that intersection in its aggregate form.
But your potential is to justify putting a traffic light at this intersection.
At right where Brazil connects to Brentwood Boulevard,
Okay.
to allow safe egress from the park,
Now,
if needed. It's for them to study that and
if
determine
we
if it's
head
needed.
down this traffic arrangement,
Mhm.
is that cost to do all of that in the $80 million that we're looking at for Brentwood Bound?
Yes,
That's already in there.
correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, have we done a study on the Brazil Avenue for the traffic coming up the Brazil area going down into the apartment complex with the new entrance that they're putting in there?
We have not.
Should we be looking at something of that nature?
We can talk about it, yeah.
I think the slope going down into that lot is going to be a problem, but I also think the traffic you're adding to Brazil, and I think the street is Anna,
Okay.
that comes back out to Brentwood,
Sure.
may create a major problem that we might have overlooked. So that may
Okay.
need to have somebody extra eyes on it.
Okay, good point. We'll look into that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other discussion on the consent agenda? Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, item 10, old business. A, bill number 6265. Can we get a second read of bill number 6265 by title only, please?
Bill number 6265, second reading and consideration for adoption. An ordinance authorizing the mayor and or city administrator to enter into a cooperative agreement for the provision of technology services with the city of Clayton, Missouri, on behalf of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, commencing on January 30, 2020, and continuing in effect for a duration of 3 years.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to perfect bill number 6265 into ordinance form?
So moved, Your Honor.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Alderman Leahy, seconded by Alderwoman Tice. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, bill number 6266. Can we get a second read of bill number 6266 by title only, please?
Bill number 6266, second reading and consideration for adoption. This ordinance authorizing the mayor and or city administrator to enter into and execute a user agreement for subscriber radio with the St. Louis County Emergency Communications Commission and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Can we get a motion to perfect 6266 into ordinance form?
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderwoman O'Neill, seconded by Alderman Weggie, I believe.
Yes.
We have any discussion on this? Alderman Leahy?
Bola, if I may ask, because I think it's going to come under your department, if I may, Your Honor.
Sure.
We have a 911 subscriber tax that is funding the communications from St. Louis County throughout the whole city, and, pardon me, the whole county, of which the municipalities are in. When they turned around and brought this tax in, they allowed a transfer of all dispatch stations, 1-for-1, and all radios throughout all the communities traded out, 1-for-1. They're still collecting the tax to pay off that bill. We're asking here to buy 107 radios, and we're including the Public Works Department in that quantity. Did we trade out 107 radios to begin with St. Louis County?
We did.
So the Public Works radios were originally in the group. So what we're doing here is covering the potential cost of upgrading the equipment 5 years in.
So this is a update of a user agreement, because the current user agreement expires.
Yep.
And so we have known when we initially did this agreement that when those radios are due for an upgrade, each municipality will have to bear the cost of that. So this is not to upgrade the radios,
This-
it's just to renew the agreement.
And keep us current with everybody. Thank you. I just want to make sure we're understanding what we're doing.
Alderman Plufka?
Thank you. Along the same lines of Alderman Leahy's question, it's more of a philosophical question. This is an emergency communications bill, and we're including Public Works in that?
Because
For what
when
purpose?
they have radios as well,
Sure.
to communicate with one another during, when they're out doing snow plows, critical incidents, they're part of the team.
Okay, all right.
I think City Attorney O'Keefe has.
Just sort of FYI, after 911, when there was all the communication problems associated with that, the feds changed the radio spectrum and allocated a special area to governmental communications and migrates all those communications for public entities to that spectrum. And that's, so all of the chips and all radios had to be changed, the frequencies were all changed, and that includes public works.
So they're all under that umbrella of emergency, whether or not they're.
I thought it was just police and fire.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Well, they haven't changed the classification.
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
And I understand the idea that it's supposed to promote better communication, uniformity, and all of that. I just didn't know at what point was Public Works a part of that, apparently from the concessions.
Hence the interoperability language.
There you go.
Alderman Leahy.
Follow up if I may. The tax money that is currently being collected is going to pay off, I think it's what they call the COP, or long-term indebtedness, that the 911 Communication Act established. So when they bought all this the first time out. So that tax isn't being used to do as a maintenance also with these radios. That falls upon the individual city to keep it going. Okay.
Any other questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Did we got a motion to perfect?
Yes, we did.
We did, thank you. Okay, can we get a roll call, please?
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Parker?
Yes.
Alderman Walker?
Yes.
Alderman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Whitney?
Yes.
Passes. Bill 6266 becomes ordinance number 4905.
Great, thank you. Next on the agenda, item 11A, new business, bill number 6267. Can we get a first read by title only, please?
Bill number 6267, first reading, an ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, approving an amendment to a lease with Banner Road Banking Company LLC, also known as Banner Road Banking Company, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
Thank you. Ola, who's handling?
Banner Road Banking, tenant located at 2810 Mary Avenue, has asked for consideration to extend the lease termination date from December 31st, 2019 to January 31, 2020.
Okay, and we're doing a first and second reading tonight.
Well, the way it is on the agenda is just for a first reading, but we would be glad to entertain first and second, if it is the board's desire.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may,
Alderman Leahy?
I would like to recommend that the board do a first and second this evening, because if the action does not pass, you're causing Banner to do something this month. If we wait 2 weeks before we give them an answer, that may put additional hardship on them. So as a courtesy, let's do both tonight.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, do we need to take a vote on that motion for a second read, or do we just do a second read?
I think the motion, you should be voted on.
Okay, so we have a motion to do a first and second read on bill number 6267 during this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Okay, can we get a motion to, oh, actually, I guess we need a second read on bill number 6267 by title only, please.
Bill number 6267, second reading and consideration for adoption, an ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, approving an amendment to a lease with Banner Road Banking Company LLC, also known as Banner Road Banking Company, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance, excuse me, and containing a severability clause.
Thank you. Motion to perfect bill number 6267 into ordinance form.
So moved.
Second.
All, motion made by Alderman Waggy, seconded by Alderwoman Tice. No.
Yes.
That works, that
Yes.
works. That's all.
I heard both. I haven't called on Alderwoman Tice in a while, so. Okay, do we have any other discussion? Yes, Alderman Waggy.
Just a quick question. So, actually, two questions. I guess no impact to extending this until the end of January on construction or anything? Okay.
There is a name.
Okay, and then second question, will we need to see equivalent bills for any other businesses that will be extending?
Another one,
Yep,
coming
coming.
down on the agenda, 6269 for Brentwood barbells.
Okay, all right. I didn't read that from the top. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. Roll call.
Alderman Leahy?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Parker?
Yes.
Alderman Walker?
Yes.
Alderman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Whitney?
Yes.
Passes 7 yea, 1 absent, and bill number 4906.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is bill number 6268. Can we get a first read of 6268 by title only, please?
Bill number 6268, first reading, an ordinance adopting the annual budget for the city of Brentwood for the calendar year 2020 and providing for the effective date of this ordinance.
Thank you. Bola, are you handling this? Is Karen handling this?
Okay. So I think on board docs, last week, this sheet was downloaded. And it's a great sheet. I was looking at it closer today, and I was telling Bull I need to point out an error. This sheet's correct because it was taken from stuff out of your budget book, but your chart on page, hold on, I got it, page 23, was cut and pasted into this book before some changes were made. So what I'm saying basically is that sheet is incorrect, which is your expenditure summary by department, and those numbers transposed to this. But if you go to page 15, which is essentially the same thing, only gives you fund balances and percentages, and those percentages that Bo and I look for to make sure we're meeting our reserves, page 15, that is correct. So specifically, your, let me flip back to my page that I wrote, that I circled it. So all of the capital improvement expenditures for 2021 and 22 on that sheet right there that was on the board docs is incorrect. The sheet on page 15 is correct. The sheet on 15 also matches all the numbers on the 5-year capital. And I will explain what that change was. That was when Bola and I and the two chiefs at 2 different times met about the emergency manager and how we were going to pay for it. And at first it got put into Prop P, and then it got moved to the general fund. So that's why both of the capital and general are changed. And if you notice, if you look at your general fund on the piece of paper that was on the board, that loose leaf piece of paper, your proposed for general fund total expenditures was $12,234,232. Do you see that? Is everybody on the same page? Do you have that?
No,
Sorry.
That's why.
Here, you can just take mine. That was what was on my board docs.
Gotcha.
You look at the number that's on page 15 under general fund, it's $12,251,232. The difference is the amount of money that one, I can't remember which one of the departments we didn't budget the 10 or 11 grand in. That's what we had to change. Basically, though, the only page wrong is this one page was incorrect, and that got transposed into that. I wanted to read it into the record so that we know your budget book that you got in page 15, which is our Bible just about from me and Bola, is correct. Those are the correct numbers. With that said, just quickly on page 15 of your budget book, if you'll look at the general fund, the operating reserves, we are at 45.03% for 2020, which budgeted in 19 was 43.63%, so that's gone up. The only way you can make that number go up is if you spend less than you take in revenue. It's the only way you're going to make that go up. It means you're adding to your fund balance. So the only way we're going to get to 50 is to keep adding to our fund balance and spend less than what we're taking in. The other thing I wanted to point out, I think in the Ways and Means, Alderman Leahy pointed out the minus 0.37% in general fund revenue, that's a decrease. The reason it's decreased is if you look at the estimated, well, there's a couple reasons. If you look at the estimated for the general fund revenue, what we think we're going to get, it's going to be a little less than what we budgeted. Because we're in such a big project and there's so many different flows of revenue, in my opinion, it's better to be conservative than it is to be thinking we have a lot of money coming in. However, I heard that Friday did pretty well and today did pretty well, so but today's the internet. It wasn't
Sales.
Yes, it wasn't Friday. Anyway, so sales were pretty good. That's a good thing, and that's great. If it comes in higher than that, great. Then we're going to get faster to that 50%. But so I based it more on what we were projecting to come in 19 for a proposal for 20. And from there on out, it was half of 1%, even though GPA or the inflation may be something higher, 1.5, 1.8, 2, whatever. I just think we just need to be conservative, and what that does is set the standards for what we go back and tell the department heads you have to live within. For capital, again, page 15, if you're looking at it, those numbers are correct. You see in 2022, that's 3.63%. That is going to change, I can almost guarantee you, depending, because it changes every year, depending on what the departments say they need or what they decide to look at. I will say that when it came to Standard & Poor's, they really looked at our general fund. However, they were impressed by the fact, that sounds like we're patting ourselves on the back, but we're glad to see, let me put it that way, the 5-year detailed capital plan that was put in the budget book. They felt comfortable with that we know what's coming, we're trying to tell you what's coming down the road. I will tell you that there's been some numbers come in after this book was presented, particularly, and I think I mentioned it at Ways and Means, the final numbers for the 2019 COPs. The cost of issuance were less, the debt service is less. Well, I didn't have those numbers when we did that. When we do the final budget and we come back with the second, that will be reflected in here. I've already started working on it. And the other thing was, and I don't know, Brentwood bound, there's more detailed work had done on it, so that was lowered. I think that got presented at Ways and Means. But at any rate, that will be in here. Additionally, the 4 categories that Craig always gives you, the new software can break down by project. And so that's going to be presented in here, and it will also be reported that way to you once I get in there and get going with that new software. But it will be presented in the final budget. So those are the highlights, but if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
I have just one, Karen. On page 15, the Capital Improvements Fund, if I'm reading that correctly, beginning fund balance in 2019, we budgeted $3,517,000. And then we're proposing that we're going to start with the fund balance in 2020 of $4,531,000.
Right. So
about $1 million increase in the fund balance?
Yes, and the reason is, if you look at that same estimated column that you were just looking at, underneath it, we say we're going to get revenue of approximately $3 million, but we're only going to spend $2 million.
Right.
So that's what would add to that fund balance.
And the recommendation for that fund is to be, is it 25%?
Oh, no. I believe in Bola's, I think it's 6%, 5%. If you look on Bola's, in the beginning in her letter, she gives you a chart.
Right.
And it's right at the bottom of that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but, so it's on page 11. It's 5. It's 5%.
Okay, so at 28%, 28.85%, we're well over what our
Actually,
goal was.
in the end of 19, we're going to be at 8.14.
Okay, I'm sorry. Right.
And
Yep,
then
yep.
6.2, and then slightly down.
Okay.
Keep in mind, in those 2 or 3 years going out, we're looking at a $1.1 million fire truck that's in these numbers.
Perfect.
Farther out, not in 2020. There's a elevator we're looking at that's over $1 million. So those are all things we're going to have to account for down the road. But right now, I think 2022 is one of those big ticket items, is why that went down to 3.63%.
Okay, great, thank you. Any other questions? Hopefully we have some. If
I
not-
asked a lot of questions at Wayne.
Oh, yeah, Alderwoman Sims, how many meetings has Ways and Means had on this so far?
I was going to wait to comment. We had
3.
We had 3. We had several additional special meetings, and we asked we did our worst to the department heads, and so everybody came prepared, and I think we did a thorough vetting of the budget. I thank everyone for their hard work, and so we presented a balanced budget. Certainly ask away, but I was very pleased with, I think, the amount of review and scrutiny we gave to this budget.
Alderman Lockmuller?
No, I was gonna just pile on because it was, you guys really pulled it apart, and with the help of staff, it pretty well answered all the questions I had. So thank you.
Alderman Weggie.
Well, if you guys aren't going to ask a question, then I'm not going to ask a question. I would just like to say that I really appreciate all the sustainability goals and objectives that have been put in there. I know that is forward-leaning on all the departments. I think that is positioning us as a leader on this, and I think it's really good for the future of Brentwood. So I really appreciate all the effort that went into the ideas there. So thank you.
Alderman Leahy.
Thank you, sir. I have one open question that I didn't get an answer to from all the ones that I gave Ms. Kende, and then she sent out to all the departments. I am looking at the storm sewer arrangement. The question I asked is, where in the storm sewer budget do we show the $132,000 that we are in debt to the storm sewer that they have to pay back to the city of Brentwood? The answer I got back is we're leasing an ambulance for 3 years at $135,000. So I'm confused. Let's stay with the simple question. Where is the $132,000 debt that we've incurred?
Are you talking about sewer improvement?
sewer lateral program.
Okay, because I
Where
heard
is that
storm, and I
reflected?
mean, right. So it's more than 132,000. I
Okay,
think
go on.
it's a little over 200,000. If we go back to, as I did, to prior to when I came, money
Okay.
that went over there. It's more than that. So if you flip over to page, well, let me just say that grand total debt's not on there because that's a balance sheet item, and these are revenues and expenses.
Okay,
But
so
I-
it's
but-
really not, you're watching the number,
That's correct.
but we're not looking for that payment schedule or any of that in this budget.
Yes, we are.
We
And
are
it-
looking for it.
Slightly, a little
Okay.
bit. So it is on page,
154 starts the Public Works Department section.
167, hang on.
I could say number.
Uh, Yeah, Paula's right, it's 167. If you go down to the very last account number that doesn't have a number beside it yet because I have to create it,
That's
it
the
says debt service.
Okay,
20 grand a year is going towards paying that back.
paying that
That's
out.
all we could quote afford, because at the very bottom, that bottom line number is the fund balance after we do what we anticipate, which is taking $148,000 a year of assessments, pay $125,000 towards fixing people's items, the couple of things that Dan needs, and then there was like 20,000 left that we could put towards that. And
Thank you.
again, it's like anything else. If next year, if in 20, we only do 100,000, well, maybe we can do 45,000 rather than 20. You know, what we saved.
But we are watching that
Yes,
fund.
yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Any other questions? Great. Thanks,
That it?
Carrie.
Thank you.
Hey, next on the agenda, item 11C, bill number 6269. Can we get a first reading by title only, please?
Your Honor, if I may make a motion to make this one also a first and second reading for the courtesy of the potential runner.
Okay. All right. We've got a motion to, and a second to have a first and second read during this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries by vote of 7 yeas, 0 nays. Okay, now, Mr. City Attorney, can we get a first read of 6269 by title only?
Bill number 6269, first reading, an ordinance of the city of Brentwood, Missouri, approving an amendment to the lease of Performance RX LLC, also known as Performance RX LLC. Authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
Bullock?
Performance RX LLC, aka Brentwood Farmhouse, tenant located at 2814 Berry Avenue, has asked for consideration to extend the lease termination date from December 31st, 2019 to January 31st.
Alderman Plufka.
So then, to make or ask the same question that Alderman Wayne asked about prior, this too, being on Mary Avenue, is not gonna interfere, this extension is not gonna interfere with construction? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
else? Can we get a second reading of Bill number 6269 by title only, please?
Bill number 6269. Bill number 6269, second reading and consideration for adoption. The ordinance of the City of Brentwood, Missouri, approving an amendment to release from Performance RX LLC, also known as Performance RX LLC, authorizing certain other actions in connection therewith, providing for the effective date of this ordinance and containing a severability clause.
Thank you. In a motion to perfect Bill number 6269 into ordinance form.
Motion to perfect 6269 in the ordinance form.
Second.
Got a motion by Alderman Weggie, seconded by Alderman Lockmuller. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman Legge?
Yes.
Alderman Lockmiller?
Yes.
Alderman O'Neill?
Yes.
Alderman Parker Price?
Yes.
Alderman Foster?
Yes.
Alderman Sims?
Yes.
Alderman Wade?
Yep.
Motion passes 78, 1 absent. Bill number 4907.
Thank you, Shelley. Last item under new business is Bill number 6270. Can we get a first reading by title only, please?
Bill number 6270, first reading and ordinance authorizing and approving the amendment to the City of Brentwood's current employee handbook.
In non-public safety departments, most city staff are currently using 6-year-old cellular devices that are no longer supported by the manufacturer. This results in a loss of productivity and performance-based issues by not being able to take advantage of the latest cellular network advances. As such, the IT department identified the need and has an approved fiscal year 19 project to replace all city cellular phones in non-public safety departments. There are a total of 19 phones and 1 Wi-Fi hotspot. Also included as a result of this is a motion from the Ways and Means Committee to bring before the board tonight a cell phone stipend policy and a cell phone stipend.
Okay. So in a nutshell, if you use your own phone and you're entitled to a city-issued phone, you would get a $30 per month stipend. Okay. The other alternative is just have the city provide a phone?
And in addition to the stipend, the agreement indicates that you would allow the city to install,
Like a locating,
mobile device management, so that if your phone were to get lost,
Right.
we could automatically wipe it.
okay. All right, do we have any Alderman Leahy, any questions?
Couple of questions on the way of privacy issues. If I'm using my own phone and I'm doing it for city business and getting compensated for it, is my phone then subject to a Freedom of Information Act request?
Is that directed to me?
I think, Mr. O'Keefe, I would believe you would be the best qualified to give me an opinion.
Missouri Sunshine Law only applies to records that are retained by the political subdivision, by the public governmental body. I do not believe that records on an employee phone, which is not in the care or control of the city, would necessarily fall within it. However, this is an area of evolving case law, and at the moment, I think that's the standard, but it could well be different, and employees may find that there is a right of public access to examine what's on their phone.
Isn't this the same question that came up for former Governor Greitens' use of his phones and their staffs and deleting things and text messages that were no longer available to,
And that sunshine lawsuit was dismissed by the court.
was it? Thank you. So we're not opening a can of worms that we could have somebody,
And I would add one other element in that.
Yes, sir.
In terms of employee concerns for the folks poking around in their phones. The term records in the sunshine law is defined in a circular fashion. A record is a record retained. Public record is a record retained. Okay? So it doesn't define the word record. But the word record is defined elsewhere in the statutes, particularly for the record retention law applicable to whatever subdivision. And there is defined as something that pertains to the public business.
we discussed this a while back of the potential of allowing police officers using their own personal phones. And we got into an issue where if they are subpoenaed, those phones, private records would become part of the subpoena. And I'm trying to understand the division of why a policeman's phone would be different than a public phone that's stifled.
I think the difference is the question of whether it's accessible as a public record under the Sunshine Law or subject to subpoena by court order. Those are two very different questions.
Okay. Thank you, Ron.
Anything else? Any other questions? Alderwoman Sims.
When I first tried, under no circumstances would I ever elect for the stipend, but I'm not gonna take a paternalistic approach and say that everybody's gotta follow that. I would keep a separate city phone. But part of the discussion that we had at Ways and Means was that the city will be able to develop, update, maybe it exists already, policies that would address the ability to get information off of someone's phone who now may be unwilling, that would be related to city business. Am I correctly understanding the policy that if they're gonna take the stipend and use their phone, they're agreeing to, one, that they have to install that app, but I'm mostly concerned that we've got someone that separates from employment and there's something on their phone that we may want, that text, whatever it is, email, text, things that go on, text messages come to mind most prominently, voicemail recordings. I mean,
I believe the policy and the agreement state that we're gonna recover that stuff.
okay, so that's the thing I'm trying to get out, that makes me feel okay to vote yes on this.
You're right that employees who take that course are going to have some compromise of their privacy, absolutely will. One way or another.
Okay, that was my only thing I wanted to punctuate. Thank you.
Anyone else? We're just doing a first read on this.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. Next on the agenda, citizen comments. Item 12, anybody in the public care to address the board? Now is the time to do so. You will be given up to 3 minutes. Seeing none, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion by Alderman Lee, seconded by Alderman Plufka. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.